Hello, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. This is a special video on Fortnight Current Affair, also known as FCA. This is Fortnight 2 for the month of November. We have two fortnight every month. The first fortnight is released on second Sunday, and the second fortnight is released on fourth Sunday. This initiative will include 10 important news for the entire fortnight, which will be relevant for both prelims and mains examination of civil services. And the coverage of this initiative will include the Hindu, the Indian Express, and the PIB. And before I begin, these are the list of the topic that I'll be discussing with you. The 10 important topic for the entire fortnight. You can pause this video and you can read out the entire content. And before I proceed further, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. So the first news, that is Scope 27 set up loss and damage fund, something very important for the prelims examination, and also you can directly being asked with the analysis part of this. So you can expect a question in the mains examination as well. This time the COP 27 was held in the city called Sharm el Sheikh, which is there in Egypt. And the timeline, if it is being asked, November 2022. So delegates at the United Climate Conference at Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt has established a loss and damage fund to compensate the most vulnerable countries from the climate-linked disaster. Loss and damage cover a broad sweep of climate impacts from the bridges and the homes washed away in the flooding to threaten disappearance of the culture and whole island to crippling rise in the sea level. तो अगर बात करें लॉस एंड डैमेज की, इसकी कवरेज काफ़ी वाइड रखी गई है ताकि कोई भी ऐसे रिपरकशन जो मैनकाइंड को इम्पैक्ट कर सकते हैं उसकी कंपनसेट ये फंड के थ्रू की जा सके. द फंड विल ऑल्सो लेड टू द प्रोविजंस of assistance to the country which was impacted by the climate change. Like mostly we're concerned about the developing countries, right? So developing countries हैं उनके लिए, और developed countries ने जो repercussions की है by industrialization and even with the rise of the high pollution level, so these countries need to be compensated. Now India की क्या response रही है इस fund को लेकर के? Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change has said that this is a historic COP where the world has waited too long for the lost and damaged fund, right? So this is the main achievement of COP 27. If it is being asked कि COP 27 की सबसे major achievements क्या है, then this would be the loss and damage fund. Now, he stated that India welcomed to address this climate change, and India has kept mitigation in agriculture out of its NDCs. Agriculture accounts for 17% of India's GDP, which is a primary source of livelihood for about 58% of the population. Now, Center launches India's first suicide prevention policy, something very important considering the fact that the number of suicide cases has risen in our country post-COVID-19. The Health Ministry and the Family Welfare recently announced that the National Suicide Prevention Strategy, first of its kind in the country, has been launched. And the suicide prevention policy will be a time-bound action plan that calls for multi-sectoral collaborations to achieve the reductions in suicide by 10% by 2030. तो 2030 तक 10% की reductions की बात की गई है, and this reduction will help India to reduce the number, and even as a global forum, this data will also be shared, which will definitely create a negative impressions. Suicide impact all sections of the society, and thus require the concentrated and collaborative efforts for individual and community at large. क्या aim है strategy की? First, it aims to establish a surveillance mechanism for the suicide within 3 years. तो आने वाले 3 सालों में एक ऐसी mechanism बनाने की बात की गई जहाँ पे एक surveillance system establish की जाएगी. It will have a psychiatric outpatient department like OPD, जिस तरह से OPD function करती है एक normal government hospitals में. There will be psychiatric outpatient department which will provide suicide prevention, and this will be through the district mental hospital in all districts. The policy will integrate the mental well-being of all educational institutions in the next 8 years, and even the developing guideline is responsible for reporting suicide, restricting access to the mean of suicide. It stress upon developing community resilience and societal support for suicide prevention, while the strategy in line with the WHO South East Asia region strategy for suicide prevention. डेथ रेट ड्यू टू सुसाइड की अगर बात करें स्पेसिफिकली इंडियन के कंटेक्स्ट में और या इंडिया के कंटेक्स्ट में अगर बात करें, more than 1 lives are lost every year due to suicide. Almost close to 1 lakh life is lost, and the top killer is for the age group between 15 to 29. In the past 3 years, the suicide rate has increased from 10.02% to 11.3% for per lakh population. The most common reason for the suicide in India is the family problem, illness which account for 34%, family problem जो 34% account करती है, और illness जो है वो 18% for all the suicide related deaths in India. Odisha cabinet approved port policy 2022, something important for the prelims examination. Also, those of you preparing for OPSC prelims examination and mains examination, वहाँ के लिए काफी important. Odisha State Cabinet had recently approved the number of policies, including the Port Policy 2022. The policy will approved by the Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik, which aims to call for an holistic development of maritime ecosystem. क्या aim है इस policy की? The policy aims to facilitate and integrate the development of non-major port in the inland waterways. The policy aims to provide a comprehensive guideline where integrated development for the non-major ports, जो NMP है, non-major ports and inland waterways of the Odisha will be developed, and this development will call for a sustainable development of the port. As per the state government, the policy will facilitate the private sector investment in the marine sector and will also promote the coastal shipping, marine tourism, and multi-purpose harbors. So this is the kind of a holistic development with the industrial policies, considering the fact that the environmental decrementals of the environment need to be also taken into considerations, right? This will provide, which will help Odisha to emerge as a favorite destination in terms of the port development for the entire country. Now, कुछ important ventures की अगर बात करें, the policy will call for a maritime ventures which include the coastal shipping, promotions of maritime tourism, multi-purpose harbor, introductions of seaplane connectivity, promotion of facilitations and creation of infrastructure for shipping, and shipbreaking and related activities will be the part of it. Greater focus has been placed on adaptations of latest technology and creating sustainable maritime development along the Odisha coast. Definitely, India has a huge potential. अगर पूरी कोस्टल की बात करें, 7500 किलोमीटर्स है इंडिया के पास जो कोस्टल रीजन है, और पोर्ट के डेवलपमेंट इन रीजन में काफ़ी ज़्यादा अहम रखती है. ऑल्दो कंसिडरिंग द फैक्ट विद ऑल अदर डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, इंडिया के जो लेवल है पोर्ट्स में भी अच्छी है. वी नीड टू फर्दर ऑगमेंट इट सो दैट वी कैन हैव अ कंपटीशन एट द ग्लोबल लेवल. न्यू रेगुलेशन फॉर वेटिंग फॉर द PhDs. University Grant Commissions ने नई changes लाई है when it comes to awarding the PhD degrees, and important changes like abolishing of MPhils are there, relaxing courses for obtaining PhD, allowing candidate to register for the PhD after finishing 4 years after graduation have been steps that could diminish the academic rigor as well as impediment to the inclusivity in the higher education. Key changes की अगर बात करें by the UGC that has been proposed, the UGC in November notified the University Grant Commissions and Regulation 2022. One of the notable changes that was made was to have evaluation and assessment criteria for the degree, where it has waived the need to publish research paper and peer-reviewed journal mandatory. This has accompanied by the completely abolishing of the MPhil. तो MPhil को पूरी तरह से खत्म कर दिया गया, which has been a gateway for the PhD program earlier, and in line with the recommendation that was there with the new education policy. तो ये जितनी changes की गई हैं वो new education policy के parameters को follow करती हैं. Now the eligibility criteria to take admissions, basically to have a revised admission is there. So after completion of 1 year or 2 semester of the master degree, one can go for the PhD. 4 year की अगर आपने सेमेस्टर की है बैचलर डिग्री में, देन यू कैन ऑल्सो गो फॉर द मास्टर डिग्री. विदाउट मास्टर डिग्री में 1 साल होने चाहिए, बैचलर डिग्री में अगेन 4 years. 3 year bachelor degree program will have at least 55% of the marks, and UGC now allow the part-time PhD. A participant or individual can participate. That will disallow the under 2019 and 2016 जो पहले अलाउ नहीं की गई थी, उसे भी अब अलाउ किया गया. Evaluations of scholar under the regulations. The PhD scholars will be required to undertake research work after completion of their coursework, make the presentation and procedures after the draft dissection or the thesis. This evaluations of the submission is satisfactory. Candidate will have to defend with the thesis in the public or the vice versa. तो बात करें खास करके जिस तरह से वाइवा होती है, अपने प्रैक्टिकल एग्जाम्स दिए होंगे if you are from student of science, and if not, you will also be aware of the fact that public viva या फिर vice versa एग्जाम्स होती हैं. So public viva mein basically you have to speak out what you have done. So it's more of representing your work rather than writing and keeping that in a bookshelf. Now, this will not be published in a research paper and referred journal. The two representation at the conference will be done before the seminar, and they have to represent their thesis. So seminar presentation होगी, ना कि paperwork submissions होगी. The chairman of the UGC said that while publishing the paper, peer-to-peer review is not mandatory. और इस तरह की चीज़ों को हटाने से फायदा ये होगा कि पे टू पब्लिश और प्लेगरिज्म के जो सवाल हैं वो हटेंगे. In a way, there should be motivated and trained publishers for the peer review and the journal presented at the conference. So there will be a direct conference and viva which will be there, and this will help to get another level of excellence in terms of getting their clarity and even making people more aware about the research that they have done. India announced long-term strategy at COP27. In a major proactive role towards the sustainable development, India has recently released a long-term strategy for achieving the net zero emissions by 2070. This was a part of COP26 meeting where Prime Minister has launched Panchamrit, right? और ongoing इस context में इंडिया ने proactively किस तरह से वो target को achieve करनी है उसके बारे में बात की है. It comes after the Prime Minister announced net zero target by 2070. इंडिया ने net zero emissions की target 2070 रख रखी है, which is a part of Panchamrit pledge. Now, long-term goal की अगर बात करें, long-term low emission development strategy क्या होनी चाहिए इंडिया के लिए? So if you talk about the long-term low development strategy, it's a 121-page document that focus on strategic transition of several high-emission sectors that include electricity and transport, urbanization, carbon dioxide removal for the industries, forest, finance, and investment. This plan will focus on improving the research, innovation, climate adaptations, and resilience. India's net zero emissions target. In its latest World Energy Outlook report, the International Energy Agency has said that India ने जो ambitious target set किए net zero emissions की, that will play a crucial role in limiting the global heat. And developing countries include India have demanded the rich country that they should be compensating their part और उनकी जो targets है वो 2050 से before पूरी कर देनी चाहिए net zero emissions की, and even to give 1.5 degrees Celsius goal to fight the climate change problem. The world is projected to cross 2.3 degrees Celsius global warming if drastically changes enacted immediately. अगर इसे कंट्रोल नहीं किया गया तो टेम्परेचर काफी तक 2.3 डिग्री से इंक्रीज कर सकती है. The third edition of No Money for Terror conference, something again very important for the prelims examination, and even if you're writing in mains paper, आप इसमें as a example भी चीजों को यूज कर पाएंगे. Recently, the Prime Minister has inaugurated the third Global No Money Terror Conference. The conference has represented 75 countries will discuss the various issues pertaining to terrorism and terror financing, the use of crowdfunding platform to finance terror activities, weak control mechanism of the social media platform is one of the main 4 topics to be discussed at the third No Money for Terror Conference. Major topics to be discussed, कुछ important topics हैं जो discussion हुई हैं इस पे. The global trend in the terrorism and terror financing, use of formal and informal channels for terrorism, emerging technology and the terrorist financing, international cooperations to address challenges in combating the terror financing. Now, the meeting will seek the global cooperations to address the challenges in counter-terrorism funding obtained via formal and informal channels. India has been proactively vocal about this part, and they have also launched an initiative where India always called for that the terror financing should be completely curbed across the globe. The conference will focus on the role of cryptocurrency and funding in the terrorist activities. RBI had definitely highlighted the importance and rules that the cryptocurrency should be completely banned in India. The focus will be given on the dark web role, whereas promoting the transfer crowdfunding will be there through the terrorism. For specifically, this is used for terrorism, and it aims to strengthen the role of Financial Action Task Force, जिसने recent में पाकिस्तान को ग्रे लिस्ट में भी रखा था. एक global standard set करने की बात की गई है, so there should be an effective mechanism to combat the terror funding. टेरर फंडिंग के ऊपर आप डायरेक्ट मेंस में एक सवाल एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं. दे कैन बी डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन इन द मेंस एग्जामिनेशन, एंड यू हैव टू राइट ऑल द रीसेंट इनिशिएटिव दैट टुक प्लेस इन इंडिया एट द ग्लोबल लेवल. World at 8 billion, India is said to be the most populous country. In a milestone to humanity, the global population has hit 8 billion after it has added 1 billion in the last 12 years. It can be a question for many other government examination कि कितने सालों में हमने 1 billion जोड़ा है. The correct answer would be 12 years. India is ready to overtake China, the world's most populous country, the next year. And as per the United Nations, the global milestone signals measure improvement in the public health that have lowered the risk of death, basically, and even increase of the life expectancy. At the moment, a need to have a clarion call on the humanity beyond the numbers to meet the shared responsibility. जहाँ पे ये देखने की ज़रूरत है कि जो वनरेबल्स हैं उनको कैसे प्रोटेक्ट किया जाए, एंड विद द ग्रोइंग पॉपुलेशन the demand for the population, the call for job employment, and even for numbers of people that is rising, demand accordingly बढ़ती है. तो demand and supply की भी balance हमें बना के रखनी होगी for future. India as a world populous country will be there. India is projected to surpass China as the world most populous country in 2023. The population prospect report has projected that India's population stand 1.412 billion in 2022 compared to China, that is 1.42 billion. India is projected to have a population of 1.68 billion in 2050 and way ahead of China by the people. So something that need to be there. We need to control, even for India, like policy has been there in terms of controlling the populations, but अभी के समय में जो सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है post COVID, we need to have a employment and livelihood option for the masses. According to the United Nations Population Fund, India's population growth is stabilizing and still showing at 0.7% per year. तो stabilization देखी जा रही है, but जो अभी के current populations हैं, उन youth को, उन potential बेसिकली जो पोटेंशियल आवर्स हैं उसमें उन्हें अपने काम करने की ज़रूरत है. दे नीड टू गिव द बेस्ट टू द इकोनॉमी, बैक टू द इकोनॉमी, सो दैट इज कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फॉर द नेशनल डेवलपमेंट. द पॉपुलेशन हैज़ क्लॉक फ्लैश्ड एट दिस मच, राइट, एंड द वर्ल्ड इज हैविंग एडेड 1 बिलियन बाय 20, 12 ईयर्स में 1 बिलियन हमने ऐड किया और टोटल 8 बिलियन के आसपास. As per the UN estimate, the global population is projected to surpass 9 billion around 2037 and 10 billion by 2050. Center introduces draft digital data protection bill, something important both for the prelims examination as well as for the mains examination. ये दोनों point of view से काफी relevant है. 3 months after the withdrawal of the digital personal data bill and lower houses में जब ये से withdraw कर ली गई थी, पार्लियामेंट ने फिर से नई changes लाई हैं इस बिल में, and they have come up with a draft bill seeking the public opinion. The bill is supposed to outline the right and duties of the citizen while laying out the process and rule for the data collection when it comes to the companies. 7 principles इस bill के अंदर हैं. We'll see the detail of this bill. I've already discussed this bill in detail in our daily news and editorial analysis. आप उसे check कर सकते हैं. You can find that in the playlist section. The first uses of the personal data bill was the organization must be done in a manner where it's lawful, fair to individual concern, and transparent to the individual. So a transparency in terms of individual rights, in terms of individual privacy should be there. Second states that the personal data not only can be used for the purpose which it was collected. Third, it talks about the data minimalizations. Fourth, it put emphasis on the data accuracy when it comes to the collections part. Fifth, the principle talks about how the personal data is collected cannot be stored perpetually by default, and storage should be limited to the fixed durations. तो कुछ number of duration के लिए ही इसे रखी जा सकती है, not for a lifetime. Sixth principle notes that there should be responsible safeguard to ensure that no unauthorized collection or processing of data is there. Finally, seventh principle is that person who decide the purpose and meaning of the processing of data should be accountable for such processing. Now, India-ASEAN Ministerial Meeting Summit, which is again something very important at this juncture where India is looking forward with all this meeting, which will definitely call for collaborations between India and ASEAN members. Recently, a Madden Indian ASEAN Defense Minister meeting was held in Cambodia to commemorate 30th anniversaries of India and ASEAN nation. This year was also designated as ASEAN-India Friendship Year, और इंडिया के डिफेंस मिनिस्टर ने कहा that he has highlighted the historic and robustness in terms of India and ASEAN. और अगर Act East policy की बात करें, Act East policy, India has been always vocal about this one. Now, क्या initiatives की बात की गई है इंडिया की तरफ से? Basically, women की जो peace keeping force में उसमें लाने की बात की है. Delegates were met at India and ASEAN Defense Minister. India has proposed 2 major initiatives for expanding the scope and depth of the Indian ASEAN Summit. First proposal रखी गई है Indian ASEAN Initiative for Women in the Peacekeeping Operations, including the conduct of tailor-made courses for the women peacekeeping forces of the ASEAN members and center at United Nations peacekeeping. Second, tabletop exercise की बात की गई है and for the women officers who are part of the UN peacekeeping forces. Also, India underlined the importance of women officers in the peacekeeping mission for ensuring the lasting peace. Issues of maritime security is again something very important. That was a part of this meeting. India has categorically mentioned about the continued advocacy for free, open, and inclusive rule-based Indo-Pacific, setting up an India and ASEAN to work together for maritime security in the region. See, talking about the other initiative, अगर Quad की बात करें, Quad में भी इंडिया ने इस तरह की initiatives रखी हैं, where the members has always been on the part of where China की dominance की अगर बात की जाए उसको कम करने के लिए, और इंडो पैसिफिक एक ऐसी टॉपिक है वेयर चाइना हैज एन इंटरेस्ट, इवन द यूएस इज नाउ थ्रू द क्वाड, एंड इंडिया हैज ऑलवेज बीन वोकल अबाउट द पार्ट ऑफ द इंडो पैसिफिक. The India's ASEAN relationship was elevated recently to a comprehensive strategic partnership during the ASEAN India Summit, which was there in Cambodia on November 12. Center notifies draft aircraft security rule 2022. This is again something very important and giving more power and autonomy to the institutions. Recently, the Civil Aviation Ministry has notified the draft Aviation Rule 2022. The rule enables the aviation regulator, that is the Bureau of Civil Aviation's Security, to improve penalties up to 1 crore rupees for the airline and airports in terms of the violation of security measures that is set by the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. Now, there's also a provision of penal provisions are there. So once the draft rule are finalized by the Government of India, the Bureau of Civil Aviation, जैसे BCS के नाम से भी जाना जाता है, they can impose a fine up to 50 lakh to 1 crore rupees to airport and airlines. The airport, if the airport and airline fails to prepare and implement the security program, and if they commence the operations without seeking the security clearances, they will be liable to have the penalty. Large airport can face a penalty of to 1 crore rupees, and if they fail to design and lay out the airport in accordance with the National Civil Aviation Security Program, then they will be liable for the penalty, and individual will have to face the penalty ranging from 1 lakh rupees to 25 lakh rupees depending upon the nature of the offences. Now, other important powers that has been conferred to the BCAS, that is the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, they will be able to suspend or cancel the entity of airport security clearances and security program. The rule will supersede the aircraft rules 2021 and even necessary parliamentary act जो pass की गई, where Aircraft Amendment Act 2020 given statutory power to the BCAS. Now the Director General of Civil Aviation and Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau will also be given more power and impetus to ensure the aviation sector is working in India with a robustness and working towards the benefit of the passengers. Thus allow them to impose penalty that would not be only imposed by the court earlier, and the act raised maximum penalty from 10 lakhs to 1 crore. So these are some of the important powers that is now conferred to the Bureau of Civil Aviation and Security. So this was all about for the FC. We have a lot more other initiatives for you like daily news and editorial analysis, IASGYAN की magazine है, Fortnight current affairs twice a month. PIB compilation is also there. MPR, which is already been released, Gist of Yojana and Kurukshetra will very soon be uploaded on our website in the YouTube channel. So do check it out. These all initiatives will help you to sail through the journey of civil services. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.